I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. We're joined by the Director of the Codes Administration, Terry Cobb. Terry, if you would please introduce who you have brought with you, and then make any comments you have about the Mayor's proposed budget and any comments in general.
Thank you. I'm Terry Cobb. I'm here tonight as Director of the Department of Codes and Building Safety. And with me on my right is Roy Jones, Assistant Director of Administration for the Codes Department, and on my left, Wade Hill, who is Assistant Director, currently serving in a capacity as Acting Director of Codes and managing the Codes Department day to day. Also with us tonight in the back of the room is Bill Penn, Assistant Director over our Property Standards Division, and Karen West, who is an Administrative Assistant in the Director's Office and works with council members on a regular basis about whatever your constituents might need assistance with. Tonight, for the benefit of members of the Budget and Finance Committee and other council members, since this is the first year of a new council term, I'd like to talk to you for just a minute about the Codes Department as the other public safety agency. More than 80% of what the Codes Department does relates to construction activities, protecting the safety of the public in the built environment, we enforce the Metro Zoning Code, Metro Building Codes, and electrical codes, and plumbing and mechanical codes, and energy codes, accessibility codes, and in doing that, we're protecting the safety of the public in buildings throughout this county. These buildings and structures are built to be code compliant, to be structurally sound, and to provide for and protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Whether it's your home or your business, your office, or it's a restaurant, or it's an assembly hall, or an arena, a hospital, whatever type of building you might be in, the residents and occupants of the buildings in Davidson County can rest assured that building safety systems have been designed into and constructed into the buildings in such manners that the occupants are safe. And not just the occupants, these codes also provide for the safety of firefighters and emergency responders in the event of fire or other emergencies. So that's why I speak of the Codes Department as the other public safety agency. The process by which we administer these codes is fully paid for by the permit fees and other user fees that we collect. We work very hard to keep the fees we charge in line with the cost of services so that we fully recover our operating costs related to construction services from the user fees. None of those costs are paid by the taxpayers. They are fully funded and fully recovered through user fees. This includes all the hard costs, the budget numbers in front of you in this package, such things as personnel and payroll. It includes fleet vehicles, communications, telephones, printing, supplies, our IT equipment, IT services, our office space, our utilities, all other building services, and it includes soft costs, things like employee health insurance, employee benefits, and the user fees also cover, you may not be aware of this, most of the operating cost of the Metro Fire Marshal's office, portion of the planning department, and our pro rata share of the personnel department, legal department, finance department, and the general operating overhead of the Metro government, at least to the extent our portion represents. The remaining portion of the department's operations, which are approximately 20% of the department, are paid for with tax dollars. They are primarily for zoning and property maintenance standards to be applied to all existing buildings in the county. Tonight I'd like to point out and talk about 3 accomplishments by the Codes Department in the past year. To go back to last July the 1st, the council members that were with us during the last council term will remember we transferred and transitioned 5 health inspectors over to and combine them with our property standards inspectors for operating efficiency and to reduce or eliminate any overlaps or any duplication of efforts. That was accomplished last July 1st. It's worked quite well. Last year we were faced with the largest number of turnovers, I think, in the 22 years I've been associated with the Codes Department. We had 14 employee positions that we lost last year through primarily retirements. These individuals represented a total of more than 300 years of combined experience and service with the Metro government. So it was a challenge to us to bring in new high-quality applicants for these positions. And finally, the third position was, accomplishment was, we are dealing with a significant increase in the amount of new construction and development in Metro Nashville and Davidson County. This is my 23rd budget presentation. As Director of the Codes Department, pleased to report that for the past 22 years, we've been good stewards of the resources and budget that you've entrusted to our care, and we've operated well within our budget in all or each of those years. I'd like to recognize the employees of the Codes Department and thank them for their efforts day to day to make Nashville a safer place to live, work, visit, and play. The mission of the Codes Department is public safety, public service, and economic community development. We're pleased with the Mayor's recommended budget, and we'd be happy to address any budget questions by members of the committee or the council.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Councilman Tiger, you're recognized.
Thank you and welcome, Terry. And want to thank Mr. Penn for the community meeting he attended last night. He did a very good job working with some residents. The 4 employees being added are all building inspectors. Actually,
they're not all building inspectors. They're proposed. We proposed to add a full complement of construction inspectors: an electrical inspector, a plumbing inspector, a mechanical inspector, and actually not adding a building inspector, but adding a building plans examiner and using that building plans examiner for plans review and for building inspection. So that's the 4 that are listed. There's actually a 5th one that we asked for that's not in our budget. We asked for a fire inspector to be added to the fire department budget. And I understand that's presented in their budget.
Okay, and let me regress here, and I should have also mentioned thanks to Ms. West for all the responses she gives the Metro Council for these many, many years, and we really appreciate her efforts. You know that what I'm going to talk about is illegal signs. Did you request any assistance to address what I see as Nashville's continued growing illegal sign issue?
All of our inspectors pick up and remove illegal signs from the right-of-way. This year we've picked up, since the beginning of this fiscal year, 11,575 signs off the public right-of-way. You'll recall last year that number was about 3,500. I told you we should pick up at least 10,000 this year. We've done that. So all of the additional inspectors would also be involved in picking up and removing signs. Yet
signs continue to be a problem. Our philosophy has seemed to be let them put them out, then go either pick them up or give them a bait notice and give them ample time to pick it up. It would seem to me a more logical and cost-efficient way is to punish them to the extent that they won't even put them out in the first place. I keep going back to Brentwood, Williamson County's experience, and why when you go over in Maryland Farms you see signs on our side of the road but not on the Williamson side of the road, because they simply punish those offenders to the extent that they send out these contract employees to nail them up, put them in the ground, put them in right of way, and they stop at the county line. So let me ask you, the council passed legislation a couple years ago, Mr. Cooper can help me with it, that makes the music venue or the venue responsible for the sign. How many letters have been sent out to venues about illegal signs in Hillsborough Village, Elliston Place, and the college communities?
I don't have that information on top of my head. I can provide it to you.
Could I request that information?
Right, and
and a sample of the letter.
We're only one of 5 metro agencies with the authority and the responsibility to prosecute signs. We're actually the smallest of the 5.
Well, trust me, all 5 of them, from Public Works to Police to NES, all of these folks, when we get our chance or when I get my chance, I'm going to continue to harp on this, that I know we picked up more signs, but I can give you the junk car, we repair hail damage, or the flavor of the day now, but next month it'll be back to our old standard of cleaning roofs and 1-800-GOT-THIS and that type of thing. I just think there's got to be a way to more aggressively pursue these areas. So I'm going to request samples of the letters sent out and a list of the venues that you've sent in the last couple of years, what the response has been. One of your goals is by 2015, a 10% reduction in visual clutter. Why would our goal not be the elimination of visual clutter?
Well, I think we have reduced visual clutter tremendous extent. Just looking back to last year, the good thing about this year is, well, before I go there, last year we were dealing quite a bit of our time, and all of our employees' time was spent in flood recovery. So we're out ahead of that now. Also, last year was a Metro Council election. And frankly, a great deal of the clutter we experienced last year was a result of people campaigning for election to this Metro Council. Those 2 things are behind us now. We've tripled the number of signs we've picked up. I'll stand here and say we've done a much more effective job at it this year than we did the previous year. Circumstances are a bit different, but the town is much cleaner today.
I wouldn't argue that point, but it's not to where are you satisfied with where we're at?
I don't think I'm ever completely satisfied.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
All right. A article in the paper of Hollywood, California, or Hollywood, Florida. Did you see this method that they're using to reduce visual clutter by a robocall system that the 1-800-GOT-THIS? Simply you phone them so many times with the message that this is the Metro government calling, and you're going to continue to receive this call over and over and over and over and over again until your signs are removed, and you will continue to receive it till you come in and attest that you have removed these signs. Did you happen to see this article?
I'm not sure I did or not.
I'll get Elise to make you a copy before you leave. Would you have any comments as to whether we should add a tool to our tool belt and whether your department would be the appropriate department, or whether it would be Public Works, the Police Department, Metro Council, or who would be the most appropriate department to initiate a preventative step like this?
I don't know that I've seen the article, so I don't know how to address the question.
All right, I will get you a copy, and if you could get us a pretty quick response, because quite frankly, I plan to introduce a 4% request. It's just a matter of what department we target it to. Whether it may be the finance department, that may be a great place for it to go.
We're trying to grow our
so they need more to do apparently rather than doodling. So, okay, thank you.
Councilman Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, glad to see you here. I want to just make a comment, kind of piggyback on what Charlie is talking about. I don't think he's talking about signs. I'm talking about eyesores of dilapidated houses that, you know, you and I have been working on for quite a while, but the issue is the same. And, you know, the conversation that we have, and by the way, Charlie, I've already been to finance. They got no money over there. But anyway, what I was telling them about the dilapidated houses is the fact that they don't seem like the signs be able to do what you're talking about, simply because the fact that they don't have the legal tools to do that. Matter of fact, I've talked to people in the court just trying to figure out how we're going to deal with dilapidated and abandoned houses, which is also just like the signs are. And I don't think that codes, as where I can tell, and I've been working on this now for about 5 years, have the propensity nor the legal means to go out there and say, we're going to fine you $1,500 if you don't have this done in 30 days. So what I'm just simply saying, I believe that the buck kind of stopped in this council to come up with some kind of legislation to give these people the tools to not only get rid of the signs, but to cure the ills of the dilapidated and abandoned houses as well. And I just would like to ask the director, have there been any more attempts to try to get the courts involved, as well as the legal department, to give you the tools that you need to remove signs and clear up dilapidated houses, because you're going to have something stronger than what you got?
Let's talk about dilapidated properties, I guess. We operate in accordance with the law, the state law and the state constitution tells us exactly, and the U.S. Constitution tells us exactly what steps we must take under due process of law at the federal level, at state level, and the local level, and we work that within those laws. The thing that we've been experiencing in Nashville and most of the United States recently is a economic recession, a housing recession to be sure. So you have increased vacancies, and you have increased foreclosures, and you have increased joblessness, and that means that we have more dilapidated vacant properties in the past few years than we typically experience. And the way we combat that typically is by reducing the number of codes inspectors who work on those things. Rather than adding resources to address the issue, we decrease the resources that are available to address it. The state legislature sets forth under the Tennessee Slum Clearance Act what we must do to address notices to repair or notices to demolish properties. But we continue to put a significant amount of money out there and a significant amount of resources, and we every year demolish a lot of properties. The council just approved a special allocation for that again this year, as you did the 2 prior budget years, just to enhance the amount of available resources for structure demolition.
Okay, I just want to say this. I know, because I've been having a lot of conversation with you, the legal department, the courts, and everybody else, and I know that you guys do a good job with the tools you use. I'm not trying to throw you or anybody on the bus. There seems to be a missing link in terms of the authority, say, for instance, like the banks, for instance. A bank can have a piece of property that sit out there for 3 years. It's hard for me to believe that we as a government can't get the necessary legal tools to deal with that bank and get that property straightened out or put a lien, because the bank can simply say, if it's in the foreclosure, it's not theirs, because they're technically saying it's still the homeowners, and they'll wipe their hands off of it. And we just sit there and can't do anything. So what I'm just simply saying, I got the idea from what my colleague Charlie was saying about the signs. At some point in time, we have to take what the state have laid out for us, go to those judges, go to the legal department, and get the necessary legal tools to do what we have to do, regardless of what they're saying. And I don't see that happening. That's my point, because I've talked to several judges up there, and they tell me that getting a court order for the signs and the dilapidated houses is like an order of protection. At the time they give you the order of protection, you don't need it. You got it just in case you need it. And that's what I'm hoping we can get to that point with these people that are doing the signs and also leaving these houses to get all torn down and tearing down communities and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, I'm with you. I'm just saying somebody in this government need to give you the legal tools, be it the legal department, be it the judges, be it the state or somebody, so we don't have to look at a dilapidated house for 3 or 4 years. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Westerholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Penn. Just had a quick question, and I know we're getting late on time, so I don't want to stretch us out too much, but could you speak real quickly as to the technology gap you cited in your budget, and just discuss what sort of things are going on to improve online or technology-based communication, whether it be permitting or codes violations?
And that was a strategic issue statement we put together probably 8 to 10 years ago, I believe. And at that time, we did have a technology gap. And we have addressed it, and I would say that our system today, when compared to other systems in other cities across the country, our system would rank among the elite as far as we have closed the technology gap. We built the right system, but the system we built, I think we purchased in 2003, and we have a situation that is before us today, in that we have a system that, while it is state of the art and is considered among the elite, it's an aged system. In fact, it's the single most powerful tool we have available at our disposal, and it's reaching the end of its economic life. The database that it runs on, the database that serves this system serves the tax assessor, the trustee, the planning department, the codes department, water services, public works, fire marshal, all city departments feed off this. This is one of the major systems in the metro government. And there's a proposal before you in the capital budget to address that and move our system to the next issue or next edition of this software with our software vendor. It's quite a big project to take on, but it's one that's absolutely necessary. And if we don't move forward with it, then we will again regress back to this technology gap just a year from now. We'll be there. Next summer, I think our maintenance agreement ends on this software. We're now, while there were 100 or more cities using this software once upon a time, we were the last city to install this software. We're now one of only 8 cities in the United States that's still using it. So it's critical to the codes department and to the land database for the metro government that it be addressed at this time.
Councilman Holloman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Terry, for being here with us. First, I just wanted to stick up for my colleague, Councilman Tigert, a little bit. It sounded like you turned the tables on him with regard to yard signs, and I just wanted to tell you that I went all over the county last summer, and I didn't see hardly any of Charlie Tigert's yard signs anywhere in the county, so I don't think he really played a big role in that visual clutter. The 2 questions I had for you were what you just referred to in terms of technology upgrades, and I knew that you were going to try to add to that in the capital budget. My question is, are you familiar with the system in Boston called Citizens Connect? Are you aware of that system?
No.
Specifically? If not, more generally, it is a system that I would encourage you to look at if you haven't, and it is a smartphone-based codes violation reporting system. And my question was that going to be part of the technology upgrades to try to go to a smartphone app that allowed citizens to place and track codes violations. And what's most interesting about the one that they have in Boston is that you can actually take a picture with your smartphone specifically of the violation, which obviously is a time-saving effort for the codes department, because you're able to arrive on the scene for the inspection and already be generally aware of what the concern is.
Yeah, the system we have, when we purchased it, we made the purchasing decision in 2003. Every permit we've ever issued, every inspection we've ever made, every application for a permit that's ever been made, every request for service and property standards or zoning violations dating back for the past 2 years. Every one of those is available publicly over the internet to everybody in the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So our system is quite advanced compared to cities across the country. But remember that in 2003, the iPhone didn't exist.
Which is primarily why I asked the question. I mean, when you said 2003, I assume that wasn't even considered at that time, nor
Correct.
Obviously could have been.
The next iteration of this vendor's software does address mobile apps and iPads. They're iPad friendly. Yeah,
And you expect that's part of what will be built into the system as part of this upgrade?
Yeah, we've seen demonstrations using iPads and those types of things.
And similarly, would that be applied to the Kiva system for permit tracking? I know developer friends would like to be able to interact through their iPhone directly on permit requests and putting in for inspections. Is that something that there's potentially be a Metro Codes Department app to allow the developers to have that capability on their iPhone?
Yeah, somewhere in the 60 to 80% of all the inspection requests we receive where
by email.
The contractor has gone online and identified himself and made the request directly into our system, and it gets directly assigned to the inspector to be done the next day. We have that, but we're not able to do it in a mobile app.
Right.
Because of the age of the system itself.
But that is part of what's in the capital request you've made. And can you tell us how much that cost roughly to make that upgrade, what you're asking for? I know that's not exactly what we're here to talk about, but.
Yeah, that upgrade metro-wide, okay? We're talking about replacement of the land database, all information relating to property, some 260,000 properties across the county, their tax assessments, their title history, their zoning, their permits, their complaints we've received concerning the property, all of that. The number is around $4 million.
Okay. And that would allow us, I'm getting off track a little bit, but that would allow us to actually interface the property assessor's website data with yours, because I know currently those are held separately. But that would actually allow us to merge that information together, or do you know?
I don't know to the extent of our hope, and I hate to say hope because hope is not a strategy, as my
I understand.
Friends up here will remind me I say so often.
Particularly in the building community.
But the system will be much better integrated with the other Metro systems. We're integrated in that we share the common database, but we're not as integrated as we could be because the information doesn't pass freely back and forth between the systems.
I understand.
That are feeding off that database.
And then my final question, unrelated to that, is I know that we're about a year in, and I apologize, you may have addressed this in your opening remarks, but I know we're about a year in now on merging our codes inspectors with our health inspectors, and I just wondered if you had realized any efficiencies as a result of that. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's been good that we did it. And I think that we've realized operating efficiencies. We've reduced some or eliminated some overlaps or some duplication of efforts. I can't quantify it, but I would say the health inspectors that are now codes inspectors and the codes inspectors that are now enforcing health code violations are happy with the assignments. They've integrated well into the department. I think it's been a success. We just signed the renewal of our memorandum of understanding between the codes department and the health department, and it was presented, I think, to the health board last Thursday. So it'll continue.
Does that mean that, are those FTEs still technically with the health department and they're just there?
No, it was actually, the FTEs were transferred to the codes department, and they became codes department employees with codes department positions. But the health codes themselves by
I see, to allow them, because some of them, I understand.
Correct. So we're authorized by the Board of Health and the health director to
That's
enforce
delegated
those
to
health
you for
codes.
enforcement purposes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Quickly, we are at 4:30, which is the limit of the time allotted for codes. So if you're in my queue and you have a question, you could ask Mr. Cobb offline. I would appreciate that very much. Council Lady Langster, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick. Just have to again compliment Mr. William Penn. He does an outstanding job along with Mr. Ronnie Mitchell. They really serve the 21st District and the county beyond, and Ms. West. But Councilman Tiger didn't ask his usual question, so I'm going to pick it up. How many cars do you have in your fleet?
55.
Any of them take home?
None. Now, we have one car that does go home, but it's not assigned to an individual. It's assigned to a task. We're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year for electrical emergency reconnects, whether it be a thunderstorm or an automobile accident, a car crashes into a building, or there's a fire in a building or whatever. We have someone on call round the clock every day. And that assignment rotates, I think, every 2 weeks. It rotates among our inspectors, and we have a car that has certain emergency equipment in the trunk, cones and flashers and, emergency lighting, and some tools, and that vehicle is at the disposal of that inspector on call.
And it does rotate around.
It rotates every 2 weeks.
And how about cell phones? How many does your department?
We have 66 cell phones. 2/3 of our department is out in the field most of the day. 6 out of 8 hours of the day they're in the field doing inspections. It's their means of communicating with our office and with their customers. We used to use the 800 megahertz radio system. The last year we used that system, we were spending $41,500 a year on the radios. We saw cell phones as a more efficient, cost-effective way of doing business. We reduced it to $30,700 a year. We've saved almost $11,000 a year by going from the radios to just cell phones, and we were able to communicate not just back to someone at the office with the radio at a base station. We were also able to communicate with our customers effectively.
Do they go home or they remain at the office?
Therefore, they do go home. They're for business purpose. They're part of the pool of cell phones. I think as far as the minutes or the time that's allowed, I don't think we have anyone that's exceeding the allocation of minutes. And it's a pretty minimum number of minutes as cell phone plans go.
So you do have a check and balance?
Yes, ma'am.
What about GPS in each car? Do you have that?
We don't have GPS in each car. GPS is a tool on every laptop computer carried in the field.
I see. And again, thank you.
It was integral to the laptop computers when we purchased them.
Thank you for Ms. West and Mr. Penn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Lady Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cobb, can you tell me a little bit about collection of fines? Does that come into your budget or into the court's budget?
It's in the court's budget. It's actually handled by the court clerks. And those fines, as I understand the collection procedure, in other words, we prosecute. We don't determine whether they're guilty or not guilty or what the amount of fine would be. But the clerk's office sends a statement that the amount is due. We actually pay all the court costs up front when we prosecute somebody. We have to post the money with the clerk's office ourselves. And if they're guilty of the violation and the court awards or rules that the cost will be borne by the defendant, then the clerk's office sort of sets that money aside for us as they're collected back from the defendant. Periodically, the Metro Legal Department will file suit on behalf of the clerk's department to recover those funds.
And are those fines generally
collected?
collected?
The Codes Department doesn't collect
at all
the fines.
Do you have any idea how effective the clerk's office is in following up on those?
I do not.
That would be part of yesterday's discussion. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Claiborne, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'll be brief. One comment, Mr. Cobb. Charlie talked about the robocall thing for signs. After that came out in the paper, I went on Google and spent a little time reading some stories on there about that, and apparently that is a very inexpensive piece of equipment, and it produced a tremendous impact in that particular community. And I would seriously encourage you to look at that with an eye for doing something like that here. Do you have a comprehensive listing now of all the properties that are still vacant because of the flood?
We do. Working with the nonprofits, we used our database, our flood database, judged against the permits we'd issued and the electric bills and the water bills. You know, we were able to determine which houses appeared not to be using electrical power or any water.
Okay, is that
and we narrowed it down, and then the nonprofits actually went out into the community and they checked about 3,000 properties, and there are today 185 properties that were flooded that no one is living in, and nothing appears to have been done.
Could you make a list of that available to all the council members, and if
yes,
possible, break it down by district? Thank you.
Council Lady Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair McGuire and Mr. Cobb. I have been working extensively with Mr. Penn and Ronnie Mitchell and others in your department on many different issues. One of the issues that I do want to ask, are there efforts moving forward in trying to address, and that is, it's kind of a similar situation to what Councilman Hunt was speaking to. But we have mechanisms in place to address developments with public streets, but we don't have anything in place to address commercial properties because they're private property. And once they get out of control, then we're bringing in the health department and inspectors, but it just seems as though we're not moving in terms of addressing those types of properties. Are there efforts being made to look at how we can speed that process up? Because like in my area, we have a couple that have been sitting for 4 or 5 years or more, and it just continually gets worse. The other thing is, in terms of the technology, as you upgrade your technology, I agree with Councilman Holloman in terms of the smartphone app. That's something that's used a lot by a lot of people in today's time. But also, I want to know if you are including feedback from residents so that whatever systems are put in place, that is to the expectations of citizens' needs. We're doing a great job in showing that a complaint has been initiated and that it is in working status. But where we're a little bit slow on is the time frame for resolution of that issue. What I'm finding is a lot of my constituents are calling me because they're having to do a lot of follow-up. And that's very time-consuming, very frustrating to a lot of citizens. So are there efforts with the new system to give people a status so they're just not hanging out there when something is being worked on but not yet resolved?
Yes, two things. Property maintenance code apply to all properties, all existing properties in the county, whether they are residential or whether they're commercial, whether they're privately owned or even publicly owned. The same minimum maintenance standard applies to all. Yes, we do address commercial properties. In fact, we awarded a bid today for demolition of the old Adventist Bible Publishing Building on 24th Avenue North in Councilman Frank Harrison's district. $184,000 for the demolition of that property was awarded today. Technology, yeah, I think there's a gap in technology that deals with our RFS portion of that, the request for service portion. And again, at the point we installed the system that we have, smartphones had not even been invented. And so, yeah, there's greater technology available to us today than there was in 2003. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor.
So you will be included. Do you have a mechanism in place, though, to get feedback from citizens as you develop a better system going forward?
The system we have today, basically anybody can go on the internet and request inspection of a property, and the system will log it in and give them a case number, and they can check that case number on the internet. They'll see the current status.
Right.
They will not know every detail about it, and I'm not sure to the extent that every detail would be made publicly available.
But is there something that can be put in place that establishes a kind of cutoff time from when someone initiates a complaint so that people aren't just constantly calling and we're having to do a whole lot of follow-up? One
tool that is available today actually could automatically generate email updates. If we had the email address of if the person identified themselves and gave us their email address, we could actually communicate back to them with a status update. About 80% of the requests we receive are anonymous requests. So it's very difficult to respond to an anonymous request.
Okay.
But for those that do want to identify themselves and be updated, we try very hard to keep them up to date on.
And I would like a status on the property on Smith Springs Road next to Compton's Foodland. Like I said, that one has been sitting for about 7 years and it's gotten progressively worse. Okay. And I've tried many different mechanisms to try to get it resolved.
If it's in our system, every council member receives an update on every open case in their district the first week of every month. And council members at large receive a status report on every open case.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Bedney, you're recognized.
Well, thank you for the work you guys do. I was just a little bit taken aback because I haven't been getting those emails, so my district must be in great shape. There's probably no code violations. The thing I wanted to ask you is, your department is asking for an increase on funding so you can upgrade your technology and hire more code inspectors, which is great. I mean, I get phone calls about code violations like every councilman. But I wonder if the problem here is the Achilles heel of this setup is because of state law, like you said before, that we are required to go to court, and the fees we get to charge are very low because we don't get to do anything more than recovering the cost of it. So I guess it's a biased question, but I'm trying to figure out if increasing the amount of money that we are spending, will that really expedite the whole process, or it will really not make a difference? If we are going to have inspectors going to court and sitting there and spend all that time over a car parked on a lawn, how will the fact that we are allowing people to take a picture of a problem make it any faster? I guess I need you to convince me that spending that money will improve the system.
Okay, the inspectors that are in the budget before you are not property standards inspectors. They're construction inspectors, and they're there because we're seeing a surge in construction in Nashville and Davidson County, and we know it's going to take 6 to 12 months to bring a contingency of inspectors in, get them trained, get them certified, get them state licensed, and get them up to speed. And we are predicting and projecting an increase in construction in this year in front of us and thereafter. So the purpose of that request is for construction-related inspectors. Yes, we do have a problem in Tennessee, and that is it's buried in the Tennessee Constitution that's more than 200 years old now, but it limits the maximum fine that we can charge a violator of a code, $50. We can assess that at $50 a day, and our courts have been very helpful. Our environmental court's been very helpful to us in assessing fines per day. But it is quite a process to issue the notice, give them a reasonable period of time to correct the violation. If they don't correct it, then to prosecute them in court and get them before the judge. And then at that point, they can be fined $50. Plus court costs. In other words, we have to start out by paying somewhere around $100 in court cost to issue the warrant. And if we get to court, then the defendant can be fined $50 or $50 per day, plus that court cost that we had already posted. And that's a problem in Tennessee, not just in Nashville, but in all of the cities in Tennessee. And to amend the state constitution requires a Herculean effort. It can only be done once every 4 years. And it's a great effort goes into just having it appear on the ballot. The last time it appeared on the ballot in Tennessee, it failed. So nobody's gone back to see if we can do it again.
So how will spending all this extra money improve the system? That's the question, really.
The good news is that I'm looking for Bill Penn. Bill, do you have any estimate? Would you figure approximately 70 to 80% of the people that we notify of a violation correct the violation? Is that a reasonable estimate?
Pretty reasonable. About 25-30% of the people that we cite end up going to environmental court. Obviously, that's a time-consuming process, but there's really no other way to deal with them at that point legally other than doing that. I will say, touch on Mr. Cobb's comments about
Mr. Penn, if you want to move up to the podium so we can all hear you.
Basically, on the $50 a day fine, we've had a maximum fine of close to $20,000 on one individual that we've assessed and been able to collect. We've had several fines in excess of $10,000. So that's a tool that we didn't have about 3 or 4 years ago. The new referee that we have has been very good about allowing us to make use of that tool. We also put people in jail as well to try to get their attention. We've had folks that have gone to jail multiple times. So it's really the punitive efforts that we have to take are time consuming, but when you ask folks to do the right thing and they don't do it, unfortunately, that's about the only avenue that we're left with.
Yeah, I bring that up, Councilman, in that if 70% of the people that we give notice of a violation are bringing their property into compliance just like we asked, then I think there is some benefit to making more of those types of requests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Gilmore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask Mr. Cobb, the cut for the discretion, I'm sorry, I wasn't here earlier. Did you mention that you were going to take that cut, the $37,000 or the $32,000 that's recommended? Were you going to cut that out at your discretion?
Yeah, it was, that $37,000 was presented as part of our 2% budget cut proposal.
Okay.
And it was from a number of different categories we would reduce in amounts. And there was 5 or 6 different accounts that we would reduce each by a few $1,000s, and in doing that, the total was $37,000.
Okay, did you address what those accounts were?
Do you have a breakdown?
would it be okay to have that provided to the council lady?
We can provide that.
Okay.
Is that okay, council lady?
That sure is, Mr. Chair.
It's certain things like printing costs and postage.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
It's in the
Okay.
package, okay, it's in our
Okay,
package
good, it's
as
already
well.
there. Okay,
Right.
and I'll check that and I'll follow up with you on, if I think it impacts my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
council
Mr. Chair.
lady. And Councilman Tigard, you're recognized again.
Terry, several years ago, the council authorized the position of a chief administrative hearing officer to address the worst of the worst. What's the status of that position?
The status of the position, I think, was after the council adopted the ordinance, the vice mayor was supposed to appoint a search committee of 3. It was director of codes, director of law, and somebody else. And I don't think that committee has ever been put together. We have not hired, we have the capacity to hire an administrative hearing officer from a state agency until we get our own. But
is that another tool in our bag to address the worst of the worst that so many council members have discussed today?
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, it is a tool, and it's a tool that a lot of cities are looking at. In fact, I was a participant in teaching a course for the Tennessee Municipal League about administrative services officers and those types of hearings. Usually the cities that don't have an effective court system available to them to prosecute code violations are the cities most interested in that.
Do we have the funding for the position, if necessary?
There's no funding in the codes department for that position.
Is that where it would reside, Mr. Riebling or Mr. Hino, or legal codes? Ms. Chair, if I could ask Mr. Cobb if he could sort of give us an essay on the pros and cons of that position. I think some of the new council members that are frustrated with the most dilapidated properties in the time period, that was the reason that this position was created. If you could provide that to give us a recap. Thank you.
And if that could be 500 words, single-spaced, 12-point font, that would also be great. Thank you, Terry. Seeing no other members in my queue, Mr. Cobb, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.